Well, let's just be the first to say it, okay? Happy New Year. You know, we just like to be first, don't we, huh? Leaders go first, and so Happy New Year to you. To all of our campuses, today we want to just wish you great services and also just the best as far as we get into our new year. I have favorite times to teach, and this is one of them. I love to kind of teach at the end of the year because, well, first of all, let's just think of 2018. For all of us on all of our campuses, there would be literally thousands of people raise their hand and say, you know what, it was maybe the best year I've ever had. But there would also be probably thousands of people raise their hand and say, you know, I'm so glad this year is getting over. Because it's been a difficult year. And that's the way life is. It's not balanced, it's up and down, and it's uneven. But we're getting ready to focus on a new year. And there's something really nice about closing the book on a year. And then, you see, we start the new year off with a clean sheet of paper. And that's just kind of nice. So let me ask you the question. How many of you would like to have, as you look at 2019, how many of you want to make it the best year ever in your life, okay? That's an IQ test, by the way. In fact, if you didn't catch that and raise your hand, I seriously doubt if next year will be your greatest year ever. I just seriously doubt that. And how many of you, not only for yourself, how many of you are sitting beside somebody and you're saying to yourself, boy, I sure hope their year gets a lot better, huh? You know what I'm talking about? So look at your neighbor and just say to them that, listen well, take notes, and John will help you make this the best year ever. Go ahead and tell them that right now. Because I'm going to give you now the secret, because I can pretty much guarantee you that you can improve your year if you'll just basically kind of follow this simple instruction, okay? And let me tell you the good news, let me tell you the bad news. The good news is that every one of you can do this, okay? So this is within the reach of every person here, okay? And I know it's within your reach. But even what's really exciting, it's also in the reach of the person on your left. Isn't that amazing? Because you never thought they could get there, did you, huh? Anybody can do this. So the good news is that it's within your reach. That's the good news. The bad news is when I share this with you, there's nothing brilliant about it. It's so simple. It's so achievable that when I give you, you're going to be just a hair disappointed because you're looking for something just a little bit more. You know what I'm talking about? Just a little bigger, a little bit more grand. So before I give it to you, I just want you to know that you can achieve it and it's wonderful, but you'll be a hair disappointed. Okay? But before I share this with you, understand, this can turn your year in an incredible way. And here it is. Okay, you're ready to write this down. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. In fact, while you're taking notes, look at the person on your left and right. Make sure they're taking notes also. And if they're not, it's no problem. Just raise your hand and point to them. Here we go. If you really want to make 2019 the year that you really would love to have, here's what you do. Every day, serve someone. Every day. If you want to have a life-changing year, not only for yourself, but for others, then I want you every day to intentionally serve someone. Dave talked about one of the books that I'll sign tonight over at the bookstore that I wrote a few years ago called Intentional Living. And it's such a profound thought that we have to be intentional in helping to add value and to serve others because we are automatically, naturally selfish. Okay? We all are, okay? You know that. We're all selfish. And remember, I've told you before, if you don't think you're selfish, the next time you're in a group picture and they take it of you, who is the first person you look for? And if we look good, great picture. Isn't that true? And if we don't look bad, let's do another one. A bad picture. Come on, let's do it again. Let's do it again. We gauge the entire picture on how well we look. And so we're going to talk about living beyond ourselves. You know, Benjamin Franklin said, "No one is useless in this world that lightens the burden for someone else." Mahatma Gandhi said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service for others." And then I love what Albert Schweitzer said. He said, "I don't know what your destiny is going to be, but the one thing I do know is the only ones among you who will really be happy are those who have sought and found how to serve other people." That is so true. You see, when we think of success, we think about what we're doing for ourselves or for our family. But when we think of significance, when we think of serving others, it's about others. And I have met, and I'll bet you have too, I've met a lot of successful people that were unhappy. Have you? But I've never met a person that served others that lacked happiness. There's something about living beyond ourselves. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Everybody can be great because everybody can serve." And there's only one time in the Gospels, there's only one time that Jesus basically said, "Follow my example." Only one time. And it was the time when he was with the disciples in the upper room, and he took the basin and the water, and he washed their feet, and he served them. And he said, I want you to follow this example. Isn't it interesting that Jesus said, basically, that leadership is serving others? In my formative years as a young leader, I didn't realize this. And I thought that it was my job as a leader to get everybody to buy into my vision and get onto my train. And I can still remember in my 20s as I was at a conference and I heard who became a tremendous friend of mine over the years, Zig Ziglar, when he said, "If you'll help other people get what they want, you'll get everything in your life that you want and need." And all of a sudden I realized I have this all turned around. I'm trying to focus everybody on me and serve me and get on my team and grab a hold of my vision. And all of a sudden I said, I've got to turn this around. I've got to put people first. And then another friend of mine, Eugene Habecker, wrote a book called The Other Side of Leadership. And again, I'm just a young person and I'm just forming my leadership years. And here's what he said: the true leader serves people, serves their best interest. They're motivated by loving concern rather than personal glory. And if Jesus were here and we'd say, "Jesus, what is leadership all about?" He'd say, leadership is servanthood, valuing people. So we're going to a story. The story, there are 3 or 4 that we're going to look at quickly today, but the story is Jesus in the upper room, and it's in his last hours with the disciples, and they are talking about positioning themselves in the kingdom. And they're talking about who's going to be closest to Jesus. And they're kind of saying, "Well, I think I'm going to be a little closer than you. And because, here's what I've done." And so they're kind of going over and they're comparing themselves with each other. And Andrew is saying, "I think, I introduced Peter to Jesus. And wow, that's huge right there. That's huge. And so I think I'll probably get a close seat." And Peter said, "Well, maybe you introduced me, but Jesus said he was going to build a church off of me. So you got to understand, probably it's going to be me." And James and John, they're just all trying to figure out who's going to be the closest to Jesus. They're playing that self game. And here's what Jesus said. Here we go. Luke 22. Within minutes, they were bickering over who of them would end up the greatest. But Jesus intervened. He said, "Kings like to throw their weight around, and people of authority like to give themselves fancy titles." Notice this next phrase: "It's not going to be that way with you. Let the senior among you become like the junior. Let the leader act the part of a servant. Who would you rather be? The one who eats the dinner or the one who serves the dinner? You'd rather eat and be served, right? but I've taken my place among you as one who serves. And biblically, when you begin to look at serving others, there are three major pictures I want us to have today. The first one is that it's service over status. In Philippians, Paul is talking in chapter 2. He says, don't push your way to the front. Don't sweet talk your way to the top. Put yourself aside and help others get ahead. Don't be obsessed with getting your own advantage. And then he says, here's how you're going to handle this. This is how you're going to overcome this selfishness problem that we all have. He says, forget yourselves long enough to lend a helping hand. How many of you know somebody that's just kind of full of themselves? Yeah, come on. How many of you are sitting beside that person? Okay. Isn't it interesting? Here Paul says, if you really want to understand how this works, you don't get full of yourself. You forget yourself. The second quick thought on servant leadership is character over comfort. When I was with you a few weeks ago, and when we were on the Thanksgiving weekend, I taught on the Good Samaritan, on perspectives about possessions. And the Good Samaritan, he basically looked at the man who was robbed, and he said, what's mine is yours, and I'm going to give it. And what was so powerful about that picture of the Good Samaritan is that he was willing to be inconvenienced. He was willing to stop his schedule. He was willing to change his plans to meet the needs of this person. Now, the priest and the Levite, the religious leaders, people that you would have thought would have done this, they passed by on the other side. And let me just say this. I didn't say this the other day in the message, but the priest and Levite, they saw him and they went over on the other side and they kept walking. But I'll bet you as they walked, leaving that man to suffer on his own, I'll bet you they prayed for him. Oh, Jesus, send somebody to help him. It's not going to be me. You know, prayer can be a huge cop-out. I've seen an awful lot of people just be really good at prayer and good for nothing and anything else. You know, Jesus, when he was with the disciples one time, he was walking to the cities and the villages, and it said he saw those people that were hurting, and then he reached out and he started ministering to them. And one of the things we have to understand is that if we're going to serve people and make next year a great year, we have to get out there where the people are. That we can't isolate ourselves. We can't wall ourselves off. We can't, it's so wonderful to come to, it's so terrific to come here. But I've always been amazed when we say, well, I'm going to the church service. And I've always said to myself, where's the service? We come in and we worship and we listen to a wonderful message and we take notes, and there's no serving there. It's just kind of like, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. I know a bunch of people, they have what I call hog theology. Oink, 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 Feed me, feed me, feed me. The service begins when we leave here. Are you with me? It's kind of like I'm going to be fed and then I'll go to service. And so we just gotta get this whole picture. And again, Jesus really gave us some paradoxical views on this. And here's what he said. He said, if I want to save my life, well, we all want to save our life. He said, you got to lose it. If I want to be lifted up, well, we all want to be lifted up. He said, you got to humble yourself. If you want to be the greatest, you got to be the servant. If you want to be first, you got to be last. If you got to rule, you got to serve. If you want to live, you got to die. Now, I'm on this left-hand column, I'm all into saving my life, being lifted up, being the greatest, being first, ruling, and living. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But a lot of times I'm not into losing my life, humbling myself, being a servant, being last, serving, and dying. And yet Jesus said, let me help you with this. that what you keep, you lose, but what you lose, you keep. And every time you and I serve and help someone else, it begins to change our life. Now, there's one other quick thought, and that is, there's this phrase, and that is, we over me. In John chapter 13, Jesus knew the Father had put him in complete charge of everything, and that he had come from God and was on his way back up to God. So he got up from the supper table, set aside his robe and put on the apron, and he poured water into a basin. And he began to wash the feet of the disciples, drying them with his apron. Now, this is an incredible passage of Scripture, my friends. First of all, in Jesus' most difficult hour, he's putting other people first. I mean, he's only hours away. He's only hours away from Gethsemane. He's only hours away from the Romans coming and getting him. He's only hours away from the beatings. He's only hours away from the mock trial. I mean, he's in his most difficult time. I mean, he's literally about to face what he came to earth for, this heavy, heavy mission that the Father gave him. And in his most difficult hours, what's he doing? He's picking up the water basin and he's serving other people. He's washing their feet. And I call this basin theology. Okay? Let me explain to you basin theology. Because there's only two times the basin's really even talked about, and it's both just right here in these couple of chapters, right in the last time. Because if you remember Pilate, when the people were wanting him to crucify Jesus and put him on trial, remember Pilate felt the pressure, and so what did he do? He said, bring out a basin. He said, bring out a basin. And so they brought out a basin of water, and here's Pilate now. He's washing his hands. Now, I want you to pick this up. I don't want you to miss this. He's washing his hands, and he's taking off of himself the responsibility about what's going to happen. In other words, Pilate takes his basin of water, and he puts himself first. He's here saying, well, I'm going to wash my hands of this. Are you all seeing? There's nothing I can do. I'm totally innocent here. This is all about, I want you to make sure that you understand that this was beyond my control. It's all about him. So you see, Pilate, he picked up the basin of water and he put himself first. And Jesus, he picked up the basin of water and he put everyone else first. That's the difference. That's the difference. That's the difference between the Christ-filled life and the self-filled life. That all of a sudden we begin to look at ourselves and we begin to say, okay, when I pick up the water, do I pick it up for me or do I pick it up for someone else? In fact, maybe the greatest test of a servant is to wash the feet of people that will soon betray you, deny you, lie about you, and forsake you. A couple of weeks ago, I was with a group of leaders, and we were in Los Angeles having some leadership experiences. And I took them to the Dream Center. Matthew Barnett has been there for several years, and it's an incredible story of basically, here's a kid who felt called to serve the lowest parts of Los Angeles, the poor, the people that were so habitually hooked on drugs. And so he just had this vision of healing and serving and loving. And he had no money. He had no offices. He had no church. But he wanted to get their attention, so he literally went out on a sidewalk in Los Angeles with a desk and a chair, and he sat there, and that was his office. And people would come by, and they'd say, oh, what happened? Well, he said, well, this is my office. This is where I want to work. And well, what are you doing here? Well, I want to serve people. I want to heal. I want to lift up people. I want to make a difference. I want to make a positive difference. And now, if you go in Los Angeles, you get right down the heart of Los Angeles, what used to be the City of Angels Hospital. They now have that whole hospital. They serve literally thousands and thousands of people on drugs. It's an incredible miracle story. And so, Matt, I wanted to help the people that I had with me, the leaders, really understand vision. And I wanted to broaden their mind. I wanted to really widen their heart a little bit. And so Matthew talked for a moment, and he said this. I wrote it down. He said, if we are to be a bridge for others to cross over into a better life, we will get walked on. Wow. Now, I've got good news for you. I've got real good news for you. Jesus really, personally is invested in how we serve and add value and take care of people. We're going to look at a passage of scripture now that is just powerful to me. It's the Matthew 25 passage. It's so familiar, but let's look at it quickly. I was hungry. Jesus is talking. You fed me. I was thirsty. You gave me a drink. I was homeless. You gave me a room. I was shivering and you gave me clothes. I was sick and you stopped to visit. I was in prison and you came to me. Now, get it now. Okay, we know that passage really well, but I want you to focus on what I'm about to read. Then those sheep are going to say, Master, what are you talking about? When did we ever see you hungry and feed you, thirsty and give you a drink? And when did we ever see you sick or in prison and come to you? Then the king will say, I'm telling you the solemn truth. Whenever you did one of these things to someone overlooked or ignored, that was me. You did it to me. Jesus takes serving people so personally that when we serve people, he says to us, you serve me. Now, this is amazing. They didn't realize this. They were just doing good things. They were loving people, serving people, clothing people, visiting people, encouraging people. They were just serving people. They never saw the fact that Jesus was right in the middle of the picture. So I have people all the time, they'll say something like this to me. They'll say, John, wow, I feel a little distant from God. I haven't really kind of heard or connected from God lately, and it just seems a little bit, what would you suggest for me? Well, it's very simple. My name's John, I'm your friend. It's very simple. Just go serve people. And when you serve people, you serve Jesus. So what does that mean? That means when I hug somebody and encourage them, or maybe help them with a meal, or every time, here we go. Every time I add value to someone, I added value to Jesus. This is huge. Come on. I mean, you got to walk slowly through the crowd. And every time you smile, and every time you encourage someone, and every time that you just lift up a spirit, every time you put a positive, meaningful touch into someone's life, every time you just touch Jesus. Wow. If we understood this and had an intentional life about this, we could go around and say, it's been a good day. I hugged Jesus 32 times. Huh? That's how much he values people. He values people so much that he says, when you add value to people, you add value to me. I wrote a book several years ago, and I revised it just last year, called Developing the Leader Within You 2.0. And one of the things I love about my writing anymore is, even though it's in the secular community, I've done this so much now, and I've got their trust, and I've added value to them so much that I'm more and more in my books getting to put biblical stuff and a little bit of just some good stuff in there. I can just give them a little more salt and light. And so when I wrote one of the chapters on serving, in leadership, about serving people, here's what I put, and I'm just going to give this to you. Guidelines for serving people. Number one is, I don't rely on my position or title. Jesus already talked about that. He said, don't get hung up with who you are and what you've done and what your titles are. Just people come up all the time when I'm speaking at conventions. They'll come back in the green room. Sometimes they'll have this bio of me, and they'll say, "Now, do you want me to read the whole bio?" I said, "I hope not." Honest to God, can you just go out and tell them my name's John, and I'm their friend? Because you know what I learned a long time ago? If you're good, you don't need a long introduction. And if you're bad, a long introduction won't help you. Just relax, take a pill. You're a little slow, but I'll wait on you. So if I'm serving people, I'm not going to get into titles and positions. Number two, I choose to believe in people, and I choose to believe in people, and I choose to believe in their potential. Oh yeah, I do. I'm going to walk slowly through the crowd. Again, when I'm speaking, when you go to conventions, almost all the time, they'll bring you in the back way. So in every convention center in America, I've many times been in the kitchens. And because you go through the kitchens, you just tell me a convention center and I'll talk to you about their kitchen. And they'll always try to rush me through that. And a long time ago, I decided I was just going to mess with them. And I always stop in the kitchen and shake hands and thank them for what they do and tell them I hope I get to enjoy one of their meals. And they'll say, well, we're moving on. I'll say, well, not just, man. Hey, let's take a couple pictures. I'll get my phone out and say, can I have a picture of you? What am I talking about? I'm talking about just valuing people and valuing their potential. I wish every one of you today, I wish every one of you could believe in yourself like I believe in you. I wish you could see yourself like I see you. I see every one of you in 2019 doing more, doing better, growing more than you ever have before. I see that in you. Do you know within you, you have the potential to go higher than you've ever gone before? Do you understand that? You have the potential. Yes. Even the person sitting beside you. You've got that. You've got that potential. Number three, I try to see things from the perspective of others. If you're going to serve and add value to people, definition of maturity is basically seeing things from somebody else's perspective. Number four, I will create an environment of encouragement. I will constantly give them what I call oxygen of the soul. Encouragement is oxygen for the soul of a person. I'm going to constantly do that. Just a couple of days ago, Margaret and I were up to see Dad, and in fact, I asked him. I took a picture. I just asked him to bring a picture. I want you to see my dad. Look at my dad there, huh? That's my pop. In fact, the little book I have there is Why I Love My Dad, and there had 50 pages in it, and I love it best when Dad does this, and I filled in every page. And then I sat down with him at the table, and I went through all the reasons and all the ways I love Dad. Now, Dad's 97, he's doing really, you could tell. I mean, doesn't he look good? I mean, my gosh, he's broken 6 ribs, he's had 2 strokes, and he keeps coming back. I mean, I keep planning the service, and he just... In fact, the other day I said, you know what I called him? He loves this title. I tagged him the other day. I said, Dad, you just keep getting back up. And so I call him now Daddy Lazarus. And he loves that title. He's, Daddy Lazarus. Yeah, I keep coming back. And I keep coming, and he does. He keeps coming back. And so he's in the car with Margaret's in the back seat, and we're taking him out to eat. And so I'm talking to him about all the things he's done for me, and every time I'm with him, I'm realizing it could be my last time, so I poured it on, and I said, Dad, I just want you to know, as long as I live, you're going to live. because I'm going to take your values and I'm going to help people. And he's just sitting over there and he's smiling from ear to, and he's listening to this. And when I said, and as long as I live, you're going to live, and I'm going to just serve people and add value like you did. And all of a sudden he goes, raises both hands and goes, hallelujah. Daddy Lazarus came back again. He came back again. And the last thing I want to share with you is I measure my success by how much value I add to others. Wow. Now, let me tell you something. I learned that lesson the hard way. As a young pastor, just so desirous to grow and build churches, I can remember we were in our second pastorate in Lancaster, Ohio, and the church was really growing, and I was training leaders, and I was just equipping them, and I was loving it and having all the time in my life. And one day I noticed that my assistant had scheduled a person that I was going to have an appointment with in the office, and I didn't know this person at all, and I knew that he was not on my leader list, okay? He wasn't on my leader list, and I looked at it, I said, why, I'm trying to spend my time with leaders and get them going so they can get everyone else going, and I have this plan, and she said, honestly, I know that, but he just wanted to have a few minutes with you, and to be honest, I wish I would tell you I had a good attitude about it, but I had a terrible attitude about it. I thought, okay, get him in, okay, good. So he sat down, and I said, okay, what can I do for you? And he looked at me and said, nothing. I said, okay. Well, why are we meeting? Well, he said, I would like to do something for you. So what would you like to do? You're not on the leader list. And he said, I know I'm not. And he said, I never will be. I don't have those gifts. But I do love to serve. And he said, you're very busy. And I've been asking for the last 2 months, I've been asking God, how can I add value to you? And how can I serve you? And he said, I've got an idea. And he said, I came just for permission of this. He said, I know you have to do errands. He said, would it be possible that if I came by every Thursday at noon, could I do errands for you? I mean, like if you have dry cleaning, if you just leave everything, if you want to get the car washed. And he said, and he went through a whole list. He said, I'll just do them for you. He said, could I every Thursday afternoon do errands for you so that I could save you time, so you could spend more time with the leaders? And I started crying. I said, well, yes, you can, but would you pray for me? I'm a sinner. Just lay your hands on me, cover me. I'm undone. I am unclean. Oh, yes, you can. And that's what he did for the next 7 years. Every Thursday at noon, I would have a bunch of stuff that I needed him to do, just mundane errands. And he'd come by, and about 5:30, my car would be back, and he would have done all the errands, and it would be washed, and he would have done the dry. I mean, nothing was too small for him. And he became one of my closest friends. And it was a huge lesson to me as far as any one of us can be serving, and any one of us can add value to people. And so I'm going to give you 5 things. Okay, 5 things, and you got to 5 things to just add value to people. Okay, and if you'll just do this every day, 2019 is going to be huge for you. And we have to write real quick, okay? Because I took too long on that last story. Okay, are you ready? Every day, I value people. Every day. That's where it starts, folks. If I don't value people, I won't add value to people. Are you with me? So every day I value people. Number 2, every day I think of ways to add value to people. Every day I think of ways to add value to people. In other words, I look at my schedule in the morning. Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to be with? Okay, what can I do? I think ahead. How can I add value to? So every day I value people, think of ways to add value to people. Number 3, I look for ways. I look for ways to add value to people. So when I'm with you, I'm already looking for a way to add value to you. And guess what? Because I'm looking for it, I'll find it. Because we find what we look for. And every day I value people, think of ways to add value to people, look for ways to add value to people. Number 4, every day I add value to people. Every day. Every day. In fact, the last thing I do at night is I look at who I was with that day and I ask myself a simple question. Did I add value to somebody? Did I just make a difference? And number 5, every day I encourage others to add value to people. Every day. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm encouraging you to walk out of this church and say, for the next year, every day, I'm going to value people, think of ways to add value to people, look for ways to add value to people, do things that add value to people. Come on, talk to me. Encourage others to add value to people. Are you getting it? Are you getting it, huh? Are you getting it? Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, let's stand to your feet. Everybody to your feet. Everybody to your feet. On all the campuses, go to your feet right now. Pastors, you can go to the front. But everybody get on the feet because we're going to go over those 5 things right now. We're going to say them out loud, okay? We're going to say them out loud. And I know some of you didn't take notes, so that's okay. Be sure your sin is about to find you out. Okay, are you ready? Okay. Every day I value people. Every day I think of ways to add value to people. Every day I look for ways to add value to people. Every day I add value to people. And every day I encourage others to add value to people. You got it. You're ready for the greatest year you've ever had. Give yourself a hand, huh? Woo!